So, hey, we're live. All right, this is pretty crazy. Okay,
Right.
so I'm Heather Fodor. I teach French in Elgin, Illinois. This is my 20th year teaching and my 20th year creating something new for the first week of school. So, you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Sharwin Snelson. I am a substitute teacher here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And the purpose of me actually starting this and going out on a limb is my situation is a little unique. I taught French 19 years ago. And
Okay.
so after a long gap, I decided to try to get my foot back in the door by being a substitute. And unfortunately, as a sub, you don't have the privilege of going to the meetings and learning the technology, and
Mhm.
it's difficult to pay for all the conferences out of pocket. So I decided if I could just put this group together or get this going to see what people, other veteran teachers have been able to do and really get some tried and true exercises and methods to really be successful in that first level 1 and level 2 class.
Mhm. Okay. Well, will that be what you are planning to teach this next year?
Yes, more than likely I will be taking over for someone that's on maternity leave. So I
Okay.
will be there that entire first semester, and it's level 1 and level 2. And that's really where I want to get that foundation started from the ground up. Get them
Mhm.
hooked into French from level 1 and 2 so that, yes, you can have that upper level class.
Okay.
And because the challenge is, yes, level 1 and 2 are going to be extremely crowded, 30 to 35 students, but just trying to figure out how do you map out that first week of class? What is it that you do to get people kind of used to hearing the French? You've got
Mhm.
students who have had no exposure, who have
Mhm.
no, maybe French was their second choice. Maybe some students simply take it for graduation. But
Yep.
what can you do to get that first week running as smoothly as possible and to get up to a good start to build that foundation for upper level classes?
Mhm. Okay. Well, I can share with you one thing that I have done in the recent past, and I think it was actually an idea from our French teachers in the U.S. group.
Okay.
It may have been just something that I found on Teachers Pay Teachers. I can't remember where I found it, but I thought, in one of my crazy planning sessions right before we go back, I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. And so what I actually started doing is in my first year, it's their day zero. It's the first
Right.
time they've heard French for most of them, and they kind of panic. But I conduct the entire class in French, not to scare them, but to teach them that they actually can learn. And so what I end up doing is we're doing more of a TPRF thing. I teach them different things that they're going to have to do in class that they need to understand what I'm saying when I tell them to do something.
Right.
Toucher and coure and, not that they should be touching each other and running, but, just different things to get them up and moving.
Right.
And like I said, that's a product that I found from somebody else. So I didn't do that. I just tried it. I have done it 2 years now, and my students, when we have that back to school night, the first week of school, the parents come in and they say, "What did you do to my child? My child loves being in your class." My child
Right.
came home the first day of school saying that, "Well, we learned how to speak French today, and we can actually do things," and they were so excited by that. And I
Okay.
found second year is a completely different animal, but for first year, I really enjoy doing it that way.
Okay. So a lot of the TPR to get them up and moving and trying to, because that was one of the questions I've had too, and this has kind of been one of those heated debates, sometimes almost to the point of being a little controversial, how much French to use. And I think ultimately because we all come from so many different backgrounds, whether it's a public
Right.
school, private school, whether you have funding, whether you're one-to-one, whether you have the bare necessities, maybe a chalkboard is all you have,
Mhm.
trying to really find the ways to get people involved. And sometimes when the kids don't understand it, they just revert back to English and insist that you speak more English. And you have to constantly remind them it is a French class.
Mhm.
And so I know that gestures obviously help, and maybe puppets or pictures, or maybe if someone's an artist and you draw things. But like I say, once again, I know that they're large classes, 30 to 35 students.
Yes.
What I'm just trying to find what's the most effective way, even from day one, because for us it's a half a day. So students are usually in class about 45 minutes. But I want them to understand, even from the very beginning, you're going to hear a lot of French. You may only understand 10%, but you can understand by seeing what I'm doing, by seeing the pictures, and so I just really trying to stick to my guns by focusing from day one. You're going to hear a lot of French. You just got to get used to it.
Do you have an evaluator that prefers that?
I am not sure. Because I'm going to be a long-term sub, I don't know if I'm going to be evaluated or not. I wish I could be.
Yeah.
I want feedback. I don't care how negative it is. I want the feedback. What am I doing wrong? Where can I improve? How can I give myself a better opportunity to get a permanent position, not just jumping in and subbing when someone's on maternity leave or someone gets ill.
Right. Well, and it's always nice for teachers because we like to hear what we can do better. Because when we do better, our students do better. And
right.
I think many of us are focused on what is it that we can do better so that our students will have the best possible experience and will learn the most. You know, I went to the doctor today and I had, you know, of course there's that, well, I took French in high school and I was horrified because I was like, oh my God, what is she going to say? She's going to say, and I don't remember anything, but she actually said, but I remember. And then she, you know, went through what she actually remembered from it, and it was pretty impressive, given that she's 45 years old and she remembered something from 30 years ago, and it was things that made an emotional impact that she found that she remembered. So, I don't know. What have you done in the past when it's your first day in the classroom with a group?
Oh, this was going back to 19 years ago. I guess the way I got into it is I just kind of had to make up stuff, just do the different skits, because I went in, these were two middle schools, and it wasn't day one per se at the beginning of the year. It was probably week 3 or 4, because it was one of those exploratory classes, 7th and 8th grade, where you have them 9 weeks, then you get a new group that comes in. So for me, one of the things I posted in the French Teachers also a couple of weeks ago was, what were some things that you wish you could have learned in your teacher training? Because you get a lot of methodologies and theories of this and theories of that, but I know when I did my student teaching, I didn't come in until, say, week 3 or 4, and I think that it's so important that if you have a student teacher, that they are there from day one to see what the real business is, how things really work, the good, the bad, and the oh so ugly, because it's important that they see what's to be expected and what's really going to go on. And I just think that's something I know I did not have. And for myself, this past school year, I've been able to sub a lot, but I haven't been able to observe a lot. And that's what I wanted to do, was observe veteran teachers and pick their brains. I know everyone is extremely busy because you're pulled in so many different directions, but to try to have that support system where you can ask away, not feel stupid, and really get that feedback and that support that you need.
I can totally relate to that. That's my first 3 years teaching. I taught the 9-week exploratories as well, which I found really helpful because that gave me a chance to start something new every 9 weeks, so I could experiment a little more. But when I moved to the high school level, because I was teaching 2 and sometimes 3 different preps, it made it much more difficult to focus on those newbies. While you were talking, I was looking at our group online to see, because your topic has come up a couple other times, and I was looking at a question by Amanda Silva asking, you know, what do other people do? And specifically for first year, there were a lot of comments in there as well. And I know, let's see, who's watching with us? Is it Stephanie who's watching with us?
Yes.
Stephanie, hi. I saw a couple of your comments as well. About other things that you do in the in that first year. Would you be comfortable commenting on that?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
So I don't do any rules or anything until week 2. I want them leaving. Sorry. I'm leaving. I want them leaving day 1, week 1, being able to speak in the language and really enjoy my class. I read the book Teach Like a Pirate. I don't know if you've come across that book. Teach Like a Pirate, and that really changed my approach. So I spend like the first day, even with kids who have had no experience, because I teach 7th and 8th grade, they come in and I usually have a PowerPoint or visuals, and I do a lot of what did you do over summer vacation? Did you go camping? And I'll show the pictures, and I divide the room with a line down the middle, and it's yes or no, and they move around, and they answer questions that way, and I just do a lot of visuals and having them go to the board and touch a visual that responds to the question that I'm asking, and I use a lot of cognates, because faire du camping. I mean that's pretty easy, and they leave that first day being able to introduce themselves, ask somebody else what their name is. And say something they did over the summer. And I keep going like that the first week because I want them, to. I'm sorry, my kids are up and out.
That's fine. That's fine.
They've actually both with my dog, so
I want them. In every other class, they're getting the rules. They're getting the syllabus. They're getting their supplies. Right. That's boring. They're not going. That's just not going to make a dent in them. And with my 8th graders, I'm lucky. I loop with my students, so I have them 7th and 8th grade. And so my 8th graders, I want them to feel like they haven't forgotten anything all summer. So it would, we do a lot of activities where, brainstorming words, lotto boards. I usually have them find somebody in the room who traveled the farthest, so they're having to review that question. Where did you go? What did you do? So that there's a purpose to what they're talking about and recalling. I also found online the Jenga game, where you take Jenga blocks, and there's all sorts of questions on them, and they play Jenga, and they pull a block, and they have to respond to the question or ask somebody the question, and it's amazing working together how much they remember. And then, so they leave again that first day like, we didn't forget anything. We still remember everything. And again, that whole first week, I do a lot of review stuff, but in, talking about their summer, or, talking about their schedules they have now. And then we go back to the rules. Like, I just can't do that the first day. I can't. I just can't. I want them to go home and then to say, I can already sing a song, in French. Or, and somebody proposed that song by Luan, the Jour 1, using that on day 1, and I thought that was a fabulous idea. And I'm trying to envision how I would do that and what I would do with it. But I don't know. I'm still contemplating that. But I do a lot the first week of school that they can, say a lot about themselves, mostly with cognates. But at least they can talk in French and say something.
Right.
Rather than just, I need to have a notebook and a pencil, and but I really like the idea of learning those command words and things like you talked about. I've been doing some research on OWL language methods, which is organic language. I did a 2-hour workshop with a representative from that, and I really am very interested in their methods. It's all about community building in your class. So it's doing, activities. Do you guys have advisory programs where you have to connect with students? It's basically doing that in the language, and all the language that comes up is things that are naturally needed at that time. And if you go to the site, I posted the link. She has a ton of ideas on how to start your class with this method. and using community building to start the first couple of weeks of class before going into any grammar or anything like that. And it's 100. She doesn't say 90% in the language. It's 100% in the language, and that's both you and the students. And at first I was like, "What? 100%?"
Right.
But when you go through when you watch her videos and read what she has to say, you're like, I can do this. I can get them to high-five each other. I can get them to shake each other's hand and introduce themselves to each other. And it's funny, when I did the workshop, she did it in a language that none of the teachers could speak. So we all got to experience the methods from the student perspective, not knowing the language at all. She did it in Chinese, and it was fun. I've never laughed and had such a good time that I'm like, how can I do this in my class right away? So that's what I try to focus on in the first week. Is hopefully that was helpful. I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely good ideas. Definitely good ideas.
I like to get my kids moving really early. So I start with a photo scavenger hunt as a review for my 8th graders, and I go through the book and I write silly combinations that focus on grammar.
Did we lose her?
I thought it was me. Andrea, are you still there? If you're still there, Andrea, can you type some of your comments for us? Because we've lost them on the audio feed for some reason. And there's my psychotic dog you can hear. Sorry about that. So.
All right.
Oh, man. Stephanie, what you were describing sounds an awful lot like something that my boss has been training us to do. She just moved to Illinois from Nebraska, and I cannot for the life of me remember the man's name, but it's a methodology for classroom involvement and things like that, and the high-fiving and the pairing off and things like that. And I just cannot remember the name of it. If I remember it, I'll add it in the comments. But it's something that, because my boss is teaching, and my boss is also my evaluator, I've been trying to incorporate those things in my classroom too. And it sounds very similar, so maybe I'll have to research that and find out ways that I can do both. My evaluator is also a very strong proponent of the 90-10 model. In fact, because when she evaluated me, I was 90% in French, I got a good rating versus the 29 veteran teacher who was amazing, and I look up to her so much. And she got a very poor eval because she was speaking 50-50 as a result of that. So I can imagine if you had an evaluator like mine, the first day English would become a problem for that. But I don't know. I used to think it couldn't be done. And then I tried it, and voila, it worked. And I was so shocked.
You know, the key point for me was remembering that it doesn't have to be 90% me. That includes their output as well. So once I realized that, the pressure, it took a lot of pressure off of me to, it's also their production of language that counts as part of that, that 90%. And one of my goals this summer is to create word walls and have things that are up that have those starter phrases for them, so at least they start and can get that, I think that, or I believe that, those expressions, or I like when, and the because, and getting them to really expound what they can say. To me, that's going to help, I think, with the 90%.
Right.
And giving them those tools to, they can look at the wall and be like, oh yeah, I can use, I like it when, and then continue my sentence, or, not just doing j'aime, but j'aime mieux.
Right.
j'adore, like expanding those simple things into more language to get them to produce more.
Mm-hmm.
How do you address when you have the rebellious ones that do jump in? I don't speak French. I don't care about speaking French. And we've all gone through that, but I don't know what's the best way to still try to come at them in a very positive way, because you still want them to get something out of it. And so maybe, I guess some ideas are, what are your likes? Do you like sports? What are your interests? So you may relate that to that. So I guess another question would be, maybe from day one, do you do any type of tell me about yourself? Would that be in English? Would that be in French? Do you have an idea of how to kind of tailor some ideas to talk to them about?
I think giving them the expressions to talk about what they want to talk about is really important. I know that we don't give letter grades anymore. In my district, we do proficiency, meets, exceeds, and for me, for us, the exceeding is going beyond, and I always require them, not doing more, but going beyond, and I always require them, whatever unit we're doing, they have to come up with 10 of their own vocabulary words. So
Okay.
if we're doing likes and dislikes, this is really where the personalization comes in and where they buy in, because maybe they have a fascination with lacrosse, and here's where they can get those 10 words about what they like about lacrosse
Right.
tied into what they're doing. But I think for me, giving those word walls give them the support they need, and they can turn to the word wall and say, oh, here's that starter expression that I know I can add to, and I can say something in French. And I also really, really, really use numbered heads. I'm not sure if you're familiar with numbered heads.
No.
I always tell them, you never speak French alone. It's like you never go swimming alone. You never speak French alone. You always have a buddy. They're seated in tables of 4. They can come up with the answer together, as long as all of them can come up with an answer. So that way, it's that safety in numbers aspect as well,
Right.
The cooperative learning aspect.
Yeah. I finally remembered it was Kagan training, and the terms that you're using are directly out of Kagan, and I was like, yes, that's it. That's the thing. So that is, Charwin, if you ever get a chance to do Kagan training, it is really phenomenal for getting students involved and doing actual cooperative learning as opposed to just group work.
Right.
There's actually a whole Kagan book on foreign language learning. And it's not a big book either. It's actually quite easy to read and get through. I enjoy that. So, yeah.
Looks like I'm gonna have to go find all these different series and books, because these are the very struggles that I think all of us experience. And of course, mine from a sub's point of view is because you get the ones that try to pull a wool over your eyes and all of that, but still, that can still transition whether you're a regular teacher or a sub. What can you do to get their attention and keep them as much in the target language as possible without going back to that phone or tuning you out or sleeping or whatever else happens. But ultimately, sometimes it does happen, and you just deal with it. Andrea's back.
I'm sorry?
Andrea's back. Yes.
I'm so back.
Yes.
I think sometimes when the kids start tuning us out, we have to remember it's not always us.
Right.
A lot of times it's what they bring with them.
Right.
And, it took me a long time, probably a good 10 years to get to that point, because I personalized it and internalized it too much.
Right.
It's just, but why don't I talk to that kid and find out? And then I find out, oh, this kid is working third shift, or their mom's in the hospital, or, all these other, or my favorite one from, what was the end of first semester last year, one of my favorite kids who is totally into lacrosse and skating, just like my son. He's like my school son, and he was laughing hysterically 1 minute, and then he would just put his head down for the rest of the class period. What is going on? And I finally got out of him that his girlfriend had dumped him in the hallway right before class.
Right.
Sometimes it's not us, and that's okay. Andrea has posted a link. I want to look at this. Sorry.
It's nothing brilliant, but it's something I've done in the past that, you know, I'm just trying to pull up a few possible first day activities for
yes.
level 1, but I totally agree that community building is a hugely important piece in the first weeks.
Absolutely. So Andrea, how do you do that?
Well, you know, we are fortunate to have an advisory program, and our school is really small, so to be perfectly honest, I don't have to do it as much in the French classroom.
Okay.
However, I like to have an award. I bought a trophy at a trophy shop, and I spray painted it red, white, and blue. And you know, we award it to different students on different days. It could be like the most enthusiastic, or you know, the kid who is most improved that week. And it's, you know, we build it up, and we have a lot of ceremony and pomp and circumstance around the award, and so whoever is the current holder, you know, it's kind of a big deal, and they get kind of excited about that. That's one small thing.
So yeah, I like that.
Thanks.
That is very, very cool. Do you introduce that at the beginning, or is it just kind of there? And okay, that's really cool. I like that idea.
Thanks.
I've also seen, I know Joanne Thomas does a lot of the things because she's, I believe she has 6th and 7th grade French classes in Georgia, and she does a lot with the batons and beau baton and the très bon baton and all these different things. And even if some students don't say the word correctly, they're always getting something just for the participation part of it. And I'm trying to figure out how I can incorporate that, because high school's such a unique, I'm too proud, I don't need stickers, I don't need this. But ultimately, we all love some type of reward. It doesn't matter if it is a little silly sticker. Boys go crazy. Oh my, dude, I got a sticker. Oh my gosh. They don't necessarily say it like that, but they're just as excited as anybody else. And so it's something where just the participation alone, I want to make sure to reward them. I don't care if you don't speak it correctly. You're taking baby steps. You're going to make mistakes, and it's completely fine. But I want the effort there, and I want you to give it your best shot and just gradually improve. So, I mean, I guess some type of that positive reinforcement, no matter what it is, whether it's one of the raffle tickets, or they get to pick a prize, or maybe they get to sit in the teacher's chair. I don't know. But just something to kind of reinforce, to get them on track so that they will remember your class, hopefully more than any other class.
My kids will do anything to earn a music video at the end of class. That's like the biggest deal, and it's so easy. It doesn't cost me anything, but for them to watch, you know, a new hit song in French, they will all work their little tails off for that reward.
Nice, nice. Let's see. I'm trying to look at some of the other notes I had. Here's a question. Say you're, of course, there's this debate of whether you use a textbook, not using a textbook, all of that, whether it's just a supplement. How do you go about trying to pace out those first couple of days? I mean, we all have different curriculums to go by, but sometimes, depending on the textbook, there's so many words that are in there that, to be honest, they're just not the most useful things. And I guess for saving time, we just kind of say, hey, what's the test or quiz that came with the book? Oh, that's perfect. And then you look at it and you go, maybe that wasn't the best thing. So how do you really, say, for example, you have to teach a unit and you have 10 days. How much time would you take to look at maybe the little checks and assessments versus going back to reteach or go back over something before maybe that big unit test?
I don't use a textbook anymore, so mine are all, you know, thematic based,
Right.
and you know, there is vocabulary I do with them, but I don't assess vocabulary anymore. I don't give tests anymore. It's all IPAs, and again, we have the criteria of meets, progressing, insufficient, exceeding, and the exceeding is always that's when they use their own personalized vocabulary in what we're doing,
Right.
Versus the limited vocabulary. It's I don't, and again, I have the luxury of having them for 2 years. So if we don't get to a unit, or a unit, they don't grasp a unit really well, I can always bring it back and tie it into
Right.
something else that we're doing. So I'm not on a time constraint, I guess.
Right.
Other than at the end of the second year, they have hopefully have mastered enough to move on to high school level 2. And yeah, so I don't know how to answer that.
No, I understand.
Do you know yet if
I do a
you'll
lot
be
with
using
Quizlet. You guys
What's that?
Do you know yet if you'll be using a specific book or required to use a book?
Oh, yes. Yeah, our district adopted BND. This will be the 3rd year for that, and it's for the level 1 and level 2. Level 3, you're kind of on your own, even though it's kind of our adopted cycle. No one actually purchased it. District won't pay for it, and yeah, so you're kind of on your own. But I'm not necessarily worried about that, because I'm just really wanting to build from the ground up with level 1, level 2. And I really do like the whole theme about the IPAs, about what you can do and what you take different situations and whether you use a Quizlet. I don't know enough about building an IPA and how to really start, because I'm sure it takes quite a bit of time to do that. And I guess maybe
think earlier in your career, though, it's great to have a book that you can use so that you can be creative when you have time, when you're not in survival mode. And then, when you are in survival mode, you can't beat yourself up about using the assessment that's in the book. Like, you will gradually create enough units that work for you. And, if something in the book provided assessment just doesn't seem that valuable, skip it. And same with the book. What concepts they need to know at the end of the year. They need to be able to talk about their families and what they like to do, and you can accomplish that whichever way makes the most sense to you.
Gotcha. Yeah, because sometimes I guess the battle is when you have a curriculum, it says this is what must be taught, and you try to hit all the checks and balances and make sure you cover every single thing, and then you realize maybe that's just not the most important thing to teach them, yet you're bound by this evaluator's checking for this, so I've got to do it. And I guess sometimes you have to look at the lesser of two evils. Either do you buck the system and become a vigilante, or do you kind of somehow, maybe if you know in advance, I will teach this when the evaluator comes in, versus kind of going off on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain things, I'm glad you just said something about family, because there's certain topics that are really, really, really sensitive to kids. And when you're talking about family, there has to be different ways to teach mother, father, things of that nature, because not everyone has a mother, not everyone has a father. Some people are raised by aunts and uncles, and so sometimes I've seen different forms where it says, what's your dad's name, what's your mom's name? Well, that kid may not have a mother or father, and so I think maybe if you just introduce the word for mother and the word for father, but then as you're working on, I guess, some type of IPA, you say, come up with your ideal or your dream family. If you could create a family, and it doesn't matter what their race is, it doesn't matter who they are, you can put celebrities. Here's your fantasy family. This is my brother. Your brother could be LeBron James, and your sister could be a Kardashian or something like that. And so you put all of those together to kind of ease that uncertainty sometimes, and the sensitivity of kids who may not have parents, or someone that may not, I don't know, maybe doesn't have a home, something like that, because these are all very real situations that sometimes we have to walk on eggshells and think outside the box of how to teach that without offended.
Well, that's when your
Yeah.
essential question changes, and then your essential question becomes, what does family, it could be, what does family mean to you, or for me, I do, rather than necessarily, I teach family, but my essential question are, who are the 3 most important people in your life?
Okay.
And that way it covers, and sometimes in 7th and 8th grade, their dog
Yeah.
is, their dog is one of those 3 people.
Uh-huh.
And then it could be an uncle, and then it could be their best friend. Like, so you're not necessarily focusing on, family per se, and when I do families, I use imaginary families and
Right.
TV show families,
Right.
and because there you go, you got what's that, Modern Family that has
Yes. Yes.
the whole gamut of stuff. And
Oh.
I don't make kids talk about their family if they don't want to. They pick TV families or whatever, but our end result is, their assessment is, who are the 3 most important people in your life and why.
So, okay. So in that case, would you, if when you're talking about doing the TV families, could that be an assessment where maybe their job is to present either to the class or to a partner, this is the cast of such and such a family, and they have to introduce, this is the brother, this is a sister, or would that be a kind of an alternate to show that they do understand the vocabulary too, by picking a family that they're comfortable talking about versus their own?
Yeah, yes. And that's a great way to do it, because in my situation, the one reason why I do it like this also is my students have known each other since kindergarten. It's a small town. Everybody knows. What, honey? You found Pokemon?
I only have one Pokemon.
Okay. Well, can Mommy finish this right now? Sorry. I'm trying to escape them. I've gone to like 3 different rooms. They know each other. If they were to present their family, they all know this person has 3 brothers and a sister.
Right.
And the dog's name is, because they've been together. It's such a small town that it's kind of boring. So
Right.
that's when you can also have you seen those family? They're kind of funny. The pictures of family that are they're portraits of families, but there's something wrong in each picture.
The awkward family photos?
Yeah, the awkward families. Yeah, they'll use those, and then I'll
No.
have them talk about this shot. This is the uncle of so they'll make up stuff to show that they know the vocabulary. But when I have them allow them to choose the 3 most important people in their life, they really, really take ownership of it, because it's who they want to talk about. I'm not forcing them to talk about their mother. Yeah, we've done little, mother's call, that type of thing, but
I think too,
and the best, I don't know if this will work in high school, but how I introduce family vocabulary is I set my class up as a family. I start with 2 kids who I know will be okay with them getting married, and they get married, and then they have some children, and there are other members of the class, and then they get married, and they have, there's grandkids, and if it's a huge class, I'm like, is anyone okay with being an animal? Okay, you're the dog. And then from there on out, we describe our family. Who is Paul's brother? Oh, Paul's brother's John.
Right.
So that we have this relationship in the class, and then it becomes a joke later. And I tell them, if any of you really do get married later, you need to come back and see me, and let me know if my predictions were right.
Right.
And sometimes I accidentally pick 2 people to get married who are actually, they're 7th and 8th graders who are actually like each other, and everybody's like, hee hee, but they remember the family relationships that way, and I don't let them sit down until they can tell me who they are in the family, and and that's how we get around some of that. You just got to find a way that captures their attention, I guess. Right. I teach middle school, so of course I can be like that. I don't know how it would work in high school if you just, started marrying people off, and but yeah, I don't know.
Right. Okay.
You got to read that Teach Like a Pirate book, and then everything will change for you.
I'll have to get that, definitely. I'll have to get that. Let me see. I guess this was another question too. This is something that, for some reason, seems to, depending on the school, seems to be lacking, in my opinion, and that's the use of movies. I can remember being in high school and watching the absolute, from beginning to end, the full episodes of whatever French film it was. And I found now that, depending on what type of schedule, we happen to be on a 4x4 block, so we have 4 classes every day for 90 minutes, and a lot of teachers maybe don't have that time to introduce or show movies. And to me, that was one of the things that got me hooked in French, was watching Au revoir les enfants, Le Roi de mon père, Château de ma mère, all those different movies, and to not have the time to show bits and pieces, or some of that is really, to me, I don't know, taking away from the true experience, because I can't speak for everyone else, but I know for me that's one of the things that got me hooked. I loved watching those movies. I loved watching and seeing all the different cultures and the different aspects, and I just wish there was a way from level 1, obviously making sure everything's appropriate for the classroom. Maybe it's just a matter of just showing a clip of something, 5 minutes, and trying to push it that way.
I think clips tend to work better, or court-métrage, just because, you know, you almost have to, with the lower levels, put on subtitles, unfortunately.
Right.
And, you know, then it's questionable how much input they're really getting, unless you really scaffold it well and you're starting with a still and you describe the picture, and then maybe a week later you're looking at the trailer, and then you talk about the characters, and, you know, you could build on it all semester long, but I think to just sit and show a movie can be challenging in the lower levels. In the upper levels, it's awesome.
Right.
Start you know, with small, again, clips. I agree with it being small. I use a lot of YouTube videos, commercials. My students are into haul videos. I'm not sure if you're familiar with haul videos. So I'll find a haul video, you know, if we're doing our clothing unit, or a haul video on school supplies. And if it's something they're familiar with, they tend to pick up a lot more. And I don't use subtitles at all, English or French. I just scaffold the task. You know, that whole idea that you don't change the authentic resource, you adapt the task to their level. And it might be just picking out, you know, a few words, or you know, for example, when Amélie compared her 2 notebooks, what was she comparing? Oh, it was the color. You know, so they understood that she was comparing, you know, colors, or and they really, really like those. And there are so many. Fortunately, I just had an exchange student for 3 weeks live with us, and 14-year-old girl, and she introduced me to. I knew quite a few YouTubers, but even more YouTubers for that age group.
Right.
And the amount of material is mind-boggling. Like, I can't wait to use some of this stuff in class, because they're going to know what these kids are talking about, because it's the same stuff that they're watching in English, only it's in French. So, you know, and there's tons on Netflix now, tons of stuff on Netflix. That's age appropriate. The only problem is I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to show Netflix in school?
Right.
Your
not like the school has an account, right?
Ours do. They
really?
sell Netflix accounts for schools, and it's really affordable, and that way you're legally allowed to show them, which is nice. And then, you know, usually there are lots of different content areas that want to take advantage of that. So you might consider asking your school to get a Netflix membership. It's not crazy expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know I have my personal Netflix at school a couple of times, and we did get an email immediately thereafter from our tech people saying, "Dear Heather Fodor, you have exceeded the bandwidth usage, blah, blah, blah." And then, you know, and it's like, how do you want me to teach my job? I cannot just fly in a bunch of French people to drop in just to introduce this topic for me.
Right.
So,
Right.
which is why we frequently use YouTube, because they're usually shorter clips, so the bandwidth need is not as great. And when we get on Netflix, then we get distracted and we keep going. So.
I posted today in the French teachers Facebook group. I found a site today that was phenomenal with current event videos, and they were organized by level, organized, and then you could choose to slow them down, speed them up. I posted it this afternoon. It was like Lingo TV or something, and you could actually take off the subtitles, put on subtitles. So I found the videos. There was an awesome one on the baccalaureate and the results from it, and I'm like, I could use this. It was easy to understand. It was also at, what are their levels, like A1, A2.
Right.
Right. So it was an A1 video, and I'm like, my 7th graders could understand. It was a news report that recently just came out. So you might want to go take a. There's so much. You could spend days just looking for resources and find them.
Do you happen to know how much the membership was for that?
It was free.
Because I saw that today, and I tried to sign up, and then it prompted me to pay for some type of membership. I was going, no, free is for me. All this paying and stuff, I don't like all this.
Yeah, I signed up for free.
I'll have to go back and look at that then, because I'd seen it, and I'd started to see a video clip, and it was pretty good, and then it stops and prompts me to pay for it. I'm going, no. I'm just a sub. I have to pay for everything out of my own pocket anyway. Anything that's free,
I haven't had to pay anything when I've been using it. So, did you sign up? See, I signed up with my school email too, and I registered as a teacher.
That's
so I don't
what
know
I didn't do.
Okay, that could be why.
Okay.
He didn't say he has been here.
Okay.
Yeah, I will definitely go back and look at that, because what little bit of the clip I got to see, I really did like.
And there are lots of teachers that are in our group who have websites like, who does the Madame's Musings?
Lisa Shepherd.
Yeah, she has a ton of IPAs already done up that she's put out there, and I just tweak. Or I find, I like that idea, but I'm going to find, I don't want to use that video, but I'm going to find one that's similar, and at least you've got the start of of things. And I think our group is very good at sharing and being to do that. I need to get into our documents a little more as well. I'm not good with that. And then the wiki, the AATF wiki. Could be overwhelming, but
right.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I was hoping that someone could post is, I believe there's a section that talks about classroom management, and there's nothing in there. It's blank, and I was just hoping that maybe someone could share certain things about, because I know one of the battles is with the cell phones, and that seems to be an individual. There may not be one solution to it, but just some of the different things of how to manage the classes correctly. Because that's one of the things I wish I could go back and really go back through, because it's tough. It really is tough trying to figure out how to get all these little hormonal kids to actually listen at times.
I think you should go with Andrea's video idea. If we can, stay on task, we can watch a music video at the end.
Right.
We'll get them there.
Great.
I also think if you need to keep the action moving, or the behavior just devolves. If you can make sure you have a new activity, like max 10 minutes. I know that doesn't sound like a very long period of time, but 10 minutes, get them up, get them walking across the room. Even if it's something as small as, okay, I need everybody to stand up right now, you have to walk to the other side of the room and find a partner you haven't sat with yet today, just to like break up the action a little bit.
Right.
I think that helps a lot with management. They need to be moving, and they're so used to rapid fire changes
Right.
that you have to kind of replicate that in your classroom a little bit.
Because one of the other challenges I think that I know I personally have asked other teachers in my district, yes, being on that 4x4 block, in theory, yes, you have as much time as you do year long, but kids can only learn so much in one setting. And to try to squeeze all of that into one semester, it's almost such a daunting task that it's not really fair to them, because if you're teaching, all right, you're teaching them even the basics, say an ER verb, but then you got to go into the adjectives and all these other things. They just learned the basics of the ER verbs, and now you're trying to teach them 2 other concepts in the same class period because they got to be ready for that and then move to the next one the next day. And there's really not enough time to absorb and to use what you've learned. And I think that's just, it's unfortunate because, I mean, there's nothing much we can do about the districts, and that's just what the districts have chosen. But I think that 4x4 block, it's too much on both the teacher and the student, because you're just cramming so much in, and it's just not fair.
I think that could definitely be exhausting,
Yes.
both as a teacher and as a student. I know faculty meetings, for me, if they go over 45 minutes, I'm having a hard time paying attention. And,
Right.
I'm a professional, and I still can't. And I just like, oh my goodness, will this ever end? I
Right.
will think that, like Andrea said, just changing the activity every 10 minutes or so really, really has helped, because we know from brain research that we do need brain breaks, because
Right.
the kids need time to process what they've learned. So those little breaks are not just to get up and move and to reoxygenate, but also to allow them processing time. And sometimes when they do find that new partner, you can even have them do things like tell your partner one question you have about something we just learned.
Right.
And then you can find somebody at your table who has an answer.
Running dictation is another great way to break up a long period. Are you guys familiar with running dictation, how it works?
I think I've seen it once, but I'm not that familiar with it.
So if you're midway through the period and you're starting to lose them, I'll take them outside, but if it's bad weather, that's not an option. You can always use the hallway. And I post 5 sentences at the very end of the hallway, or the bottom of the hill outside, and they split up in partners. One partner's at one, they start in the same spot. One partner is the writer, the other is the runner. They run all the way to the end of the hallway, they read the sentence, and then they're running back to their partner, trying to say it over and over and over again in their head so that they can dictate to their partner who's going to write it down. And they have to go back and forth as many times as they need to get it. It's a great little, supposedly that muscle memory when you're doing exercise and trying to remember something at the same time, it helps kind of use it in your head a little better. And they love, they're moving, but they're motivated to do it, and it's a great way to break up a long class period. And 5 sentences, and then, sit them back down and get them focused on something new. But
Okay. I guess with the high school, because I would probably just have them go outside and then go back and forth, because if you let these guys out, they're not coming back. Unfortunately, that's the reality.
Fair enough.
He's letting us leave. Okay, awesome.
I can imagine my students doing that as well, especially in the first few weeks of class.
Right.
Generally after that, they're somewhere between enchanted and terrified of me, so they're not really sure what I'm going to do. So, that kind of helps. But I really like that idea, Andrea, of the running dictation, especially if we could use sentences that are modeling the structures that we're trying to teach that day, or the concepts that we're trying to show them that day. I could imagine that my kids would be asking for that quite often.
Right.
One of the other things they ask for is Quizlet Live.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah. They have loved that, and they even wrote on the board Quizlet Live, and they wrote it like Quizlet. It's like, yes, you're cute, you're funny. No, you're not going to do it again until you learn something new, but
I think I'm doing one for back to school night with the parents.
That's a great idea.
Just so that I don't have to do as much talking. I think they'll get into it.
That would actually be really fun.
Yeah.
Nice.
Of the like vocabulary and things that you have taught your students up to that point, or what would you do?
I think I would frame it more around how to be successful in French class, or how to help your student be successful in French class, just so but maybe thrown in with some trivia about the French-speaking world, and a little bit of everything.
Awesome idea.
Nice.
I stole it from somebody else. I can't take credit. I saw it on some forum, so.
I love that idea, though. That is fantastic.
Very nice.
That's a great, going back to the original topic of this, that first day, that first week, doing a Quizlet live with the rules versus doing it, by reading the syllabus.
Right.
Is way more fun than, doing that. Or even like a QR code scavenger hunt. Posted around your room, or even around the hallway leading up to your room, and you change the QR code every couple of days with a new rule or a new, because I can't stand going over rules. I just can't.
I feel your pain.
It's just really not what, at least for me, in my opinion. Yes, students need to know what your expectations are, but they also need to feel what they are by being in your class. And they know how to be a student for the most part. So, are you okay? Cat just ran over her foot. Gotta look where you're going. So, I got that idea of, maybe, posting, every day the QR code changes, and my kids, we're 1-to-1, so it's easy for them to take a quick, scan of what that might be, and then somehow incorporating that, into our, lesson. Or even like I was even thinking about it with skills, like how do they approach a reading assignment, and then using that QR code, tip in what we're doing that day. I don't know. I've got lots of ideas going in my head about the rules, but again, I never touch them until week 2, because it's just, and my 8th graders I don't have to, because I've already had them. So
right. Right.
I would think maybe with your first years you might need to try that, Sharwin. But have you ever thought about doing memes of your rules? And
those are awesome. Yes, memes.
So I had fun with that a couple years ago, and I made my own once I figured out how. Here's me on my meme maker, and my 14-year-old is laughing at me hysterically and thinking that this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. This old mom trying to do this, and it was really easy, and it was a fun way to introduce certain things that might be particular about my classroom, because as Stephanie said, they know how to be a student. They already know the general rules and expectations. And I usually will start with something like, you already know what's going to be appropriate. You know what I'm looking for. Why don't you guys tell me some of the things that you've heard in other classes, and tell me how that's going to apply in this classroom.
Right.
Yeah. And make them more responsible for that, because they got to have a say in what those things were, without giving them total control, because I'm too much of a control freak and I can't do that. So.
Right. Yeah, I need to definitely look. I've seen some good memes. I don't know how to make them. So.
Well, if you look in our comments, there's one posted here for you. There's a link so that you can make your own. Generally, we already have a stock of different photos, and then you just add your text and then put it. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's fairly simple, and it works relatively well. I have to update some of mine because the background pictures are too old.
They don't recognize what they are. Yes.
Yeah. Given the recent political things, I'm sure I could add a few images about different rules and expectations. And
you're talking about plagiarism. Plagiarism. Is that what we're going to start with?
I may choose to mention that, that Melania Defense is really not going to fly in my classroom. And,
Right.
we are going to use Turnitin, so
Right.
you
Yeah,
know
that.
that perhaps we should work on our own things, and if we need help, we need to state that we did ask for help and receive
Right.
from these people. So just like
This-
we're doing in our professional conversation, when we explain that somebody else, that we got this idea from somebody
Right.
else, not taking ownership of it or whatever.
I do almost no writing outside of class. I try and
Right.
do almost all my writing in class because I just find that it's just not worth the Google Translate battle.
I totally agree.
That kind of that was going to lead into one of my next question. Some teachers assign homework, some don't, because once they leave that classroom, you have no control whether it was a live assistance or whether it was a mechanical assistance. You don't know how that answer got on that paper.
Right.
And it's one of those things where, on one hand, you want to say, this is practice for you. So if you already know it, we'll go to the next concept. But let me know, okay, if you don't understand it, we'll go over it as many times as we can. But just getting the answers from somebody else does not mean you know this. You were able to copy it. You were able to look it up. I mean, because it's just gotten to the point where unfortunately, the cheating and the plagiarism, it's off the charts now. And so I guess it is much better to say, hey, we just have to do everything in class.
Mm-hmm.
I think reading homework is great, and actually reading is one of the only types of homework that has been historically shown to have a pretty significant benefit. A lot of other homework, it's kind of dubious how much help it really gives the kids. So I try to only have either reading homework or stuff that's in English that I need them to know, but I don't want to use class time for that English. Sometimes I'll offload that into homework. But other than that, I don't really do homework.
Right.
I have also found that I don't do homework often because it doesn't come back.
Right.
Quite honestly, my kids choose not to do it, whether it is because there are other things that are higher on their priority list that we might also agree with, or if just, they wanted to sit there and video chat with their friends until 4 a.m. or whatever.
Right.
I would say on average in a class of 35, I probably have 7 kids who bring their homework every day. So that's really not an option for me. But I'm very interested in Stephanie's comment about her homework is gamification. So please tell us more about that.
I stopped assigning when we moved to standards-based and proficiency-based learning. Our principal really impressed upon us that homework needs to be I can't even think of the word right now. Have a purpose. Have a real purpose. It should not be busy work. And workbooks were just busy work and not real life type of stuff. So I started working with using Quizlet, using a bunch of different apps like that. We do have Quizlet Teacher in our school, and that gives you all that feedback, so you know when the last time they logged on, what they did for activities. I also use Zondle, which with iPads is much better, but on the computer it's not as fun. There's a bunch of them out there. There's a new one called, I just found it. Hold on, I have it in my notes. EducaPlay. I'll type it.
Oh, good, thank you. I was just going to type a comment. Type those for us when you get a chance.
And what all of these do is they give you feedback on how often the kids do things, what they get wrong, what they get right.
Okay.
And with Zondle and some of those, they earn points. And going back to that reward system, I will reward kids with little mini Eiffel Tower tickets.
Ooh.
And then at the end of the term or at the end of the week, depending on how I feel or what's going on, we have raffles for different things. And candy goes a long way. I hate using candy, but I like candy.
It works.
I'll get beginning of the year you can buy packs of iTunes gift cards. Like you can get 3 free $10 iTunes gift cards or whatever, and my parent group will pay for those kinds of things, and they'll put their tickets in, and then we draw, for those. But the gamification is they play games, and sometimes it's not just necessarily a game. Like the Educa Play ones that I've set up, they have to do different tasks. Like they might have to do 3 different Quizlet sets to earn the pawn move to that square. They might have to watch a YouTube video and answer a couple of questions to move on to the next one. You set them up how you want, and I've had parents email me, my kid's up, on their computer playing this game. Are they really doing French? Yeah, they are. They love Duolingo, and again, all of those provide feedback, and they're doing language stuff. But yeah, so what? Maybe they're not necessarily, filling in blank, but at least they're doing something with the language. And I always make sure the tasks apply to whatever theme that we're talking about or whatever we're doing.
Right.
With the whole, it's funny you talked about the Pokemon thing. We just got an email from our tech director at our school that the Pokemon has been banned. Like they put it on the blocked list. And I'm like, oh darn! I could have really used that to really, get to the kids. But they're afraid it's going to take up too much of our bandwidth with the kids, being on that, looking to that, and causing problems.
Right.
But this is how their brains learn. They learn through games. They learn through the technology. It's like, I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to embrace it. So setting up the homework to be like that, I get more completion than if I were to give a workbook assignment or to give a worksheet. And like Andrea said, I save that all for class. They tend to have questions when they do those kinds of things anyways, and that's why they don't get completed. So if I can have them doing, and I tell them if, on the Quizlet set I usually give them a week to do the Quizlet. There's like 6 different activities. They have to complete 4 out of the 6. And if I get, 85% of the class has done that, we'll do a Quizlet Live with that set. And they want to play Quizlet Live so bad that they will do that assignment, and they
hold
can
each other accountable.
They can do it in the car on the way to hockey practice. They can do it. It's not like they have to, be sitting at a desk to do a lot of these assignments. Right. And I've just really started to get into. Somebody posted about that. There's a French one, but it was like $99 for the year, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. And I'll post a list of these in a second, but I found another one that I really like. They cannot complete the set until they get 100% on it, and it's all sorts of games and the words. So if they miss a word, or if they miss a phrase, or if they miss a match, it goes right back into the shuffle of the game, and so it'll come up again. It's not just like a one and done thing. So if they miss it 5 times, but hopefully by that 6th time they'll get it.
Right.
And the information on these things, I'll tell you, it took them 6 tries to get this word, and then I look at it as if the whole class had trouble with that expression or that verb or that. None of them can get how to ask the sales clerk how much something costs, and that means I need to go over that.
Right.
But if and they all like that. They like at least in 7th and 8th grade, they like that competition. Like, so and so just knocked me out of first place. I'm going to get back to first place.
Right.
And those kids that still struggle, you find other ways to help them get to the points where they need to be, or help them. We have targeted learning time in our school, and they're more like guided study halls. So every 6 weeks, we look at where kids are, and I can say I want Joe, John, Jim, Julie, and Sarah for the next 3 weeks, and I help them with those things to get up to their points. And then again in 6 weeks, we sit down as a team and we divide up the kids again, and so that we can really target those kids who really need help in certain things. Like some kids may need to be in math for the next 6 weeks, working on this concept.
Right.
So, even those kids who don't buy into it, they end up buying into it because you help them understand the games and get to the games and get the points. And
Can I ask a question
I don't
really
know.
quick? Is it possible, because I see all the different links that are here in the chat, well, is there a way to actually copy and paste this, or is there a way for, instead of, because I'm not writing all this down as quickly as I'd like to,
No.
everything that's in the chat, is there a way to save this or to look at, I mean, I just don't know.
Oh, okay. There you go. It says Heather Fodor, but that's actually my husband who's posting that for you. And it'll be on that YouTube because this becomes a YouTube video.
Okay.
And then all of our comments are then below that. So we'll have all of this.
Okay, because I'm going, I cannot write this. I'm going, all right, good luck trying to write all this stuff down.
I couldn't either. Especially that last set of links. I looked at that and I thought, what's that?
Right. Okay, yeah. Yeah,
So
thank you very much.
I think, I don't know, going back to your very first question, Sharwin, was what to do in that first week of school. But we talked about first year. What do you think about second year?
That's a tough one, too, because I didn't know how much review. It's always, what can you do to review? Some kids, most of them are coming back from summer break, or some of them may be transitioned from first semester to second semester, but I'm going to go with the default and say it's summer. I don't know. Some teachers, I think, spend about 2 weeks doing nothing but review to get kids back on task, and I just don't know if that's realistic, or if it's something where more of a kind of a flipped classroom, hey, you can watch videos or you can do the Quizlets at home, because for us, most of our schools are not one-to-one. Out of the 16 high schools, I believe only 4 of them are, so it makes it really, really, really tough. And then a lot of the schools don't allow you to bring your own device, and so you're just kind of stuck. But I would say there has to be a way to try to smooth that transition, because they more than likely haven't thought about French all summer. They haven't kept up and reviewed their notes. I mean, we want them to do that, but we have to be realistic.
Right.
So I guess it's a matter of trying to figure out how much time to review everything. I don't know what the good starting point is, because you're going to have some that remember everything, some that don't. I don't know if it's okay to do a pre-test to kind of figure out, hey, this is a good starting point, or where do you go with that?
Okay. I have spent in the past anywhere from 0 time to the entire first quarter reviewing in second year, depending on the class and what their needs were. And I will tell you that sorry, my dog is bringing me a toy. My level of frustration goes up the longer we spend working on the review.
Yes.
And they're down significantly because they feel like they're not learning anything new, and they're right, they're not.
Right.
But then they seem to absorb my frustration and then feed that right back to me with, well, you don't even want to be in our class because you think we're dumb. It's like, I don't think you're dumb at all. I'm just tired of so, you guys are going to have to do some stuff outside of class. And I find that my second year is where, we go from, here's first year, I don't know which way is right for you guys. Am I on the left side?
Right.
It's reversed for them. So left side?
Right.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
So first year, so interested, oh my gosh. And then second year,
right.
I don't want to see that happen this year. I'm actually not going to do the second year for the first time in a long time. I'm actually going to be picking up the third and fourth year in addition to my first year. So I need to make sure that whatever I do, same thing with second years. They already have some experience, so how am I going to engage them and still give them the scaffolding that they need to be successful for those times that they've forgotten things? What have you guys found successful?
I always start with a short novel. I'm not a TPRS teacher, but I will use some of those types of novels, like one of them at the very beginning of the year, because it recycles a lot of the structures that they should know, a lot of the vocabulary that they should know, and it serves as a review, but it still feels like we're doing something new.
Okay. What are some of the novels that you've used for the beginning of second year?
So years ago I used to use Pauvre Anne, but it's so dated and not my favorite. But, you know, some of the Brandon Brown books work pretty well, I feel like. Or I really like Mira Canyon's newest one, La France en Danger, is super fun, and it brings in tons of interesting historical and cultural pieces. You've got Picasso, and you have the interwar period, and you have a geography of France, and there's a lot of great stuff in there, but it's all in the present tense. And my, you know, 8th graders at the beginning of the year who have done French 1 in 7th grade are ready to go on that, and it recycles lots of what they should know, and then we can move on.
Okay. Did you say La France en Danger?
La France en Danger et Les Secrets de Picasso. It's all, I'll type it.
Okay. I'm just making sure that I'm finding the right link for that.
Because Carmen, you're using BND, right? That's what you said.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's the book series we have that I don't really use, but the school unit is like Unit 4 or 5. I mean, it's like
right.
in the it's in a weird spot. So
right.
I leave that out, and I do that at the beginning of our second year when they're brand new, back to school. Perfect time. They want to discuss what their schedules are. They want to find out
right.
who's in their classes.
Gotcha.
So, and it recycles a lot of things about likes and dislikes, and we always have a new student in our class. Even though they've been together for years and years, we always get 1 or 2 students who move into the district. And so it's like the perfect time. Oh, there's a new student in our class. Let's all introduce ourselves again and do that kind of information.
Right.
I've also, last year I tried it for the first time. It worked out awesome. I found another school in our state far enough away that the kids would not know each other, and we ended up doing a survey of questions about ourselves that we answered. We exchanged the information, and then we did a guess who game with them. They came, we did it on Skype, and the kids came to the front of the room, and they were hiding behind like some kind of picture, and my kids asked them a question like, do you have any brothers or sisters? Because we had learned about that. Yes. How many? 3. And then they would go through all the information on the students, and they would try, and then they'd ask a follow-up. The next student would come up and ask a follow-up question, and eventually they would narrow it down. Are you Charles? Yes, I'm Charles. Or no, I'm not. And it worked out amazingly well that because they were reviewing and recycling all those things that we had studied, but with kids they didn't know.
Right.
Had no clue who they were, where they were, and they even had to find out where they were. But you know, the first time I tried it, I tried it with a group, and we couldn't get the schedules to work out because there was a time difference. They were, you know, right. 3 hours behind us. Yeah. So then I said, this time I'm going to do it with kids in our own state. I got online with the French teachers in my state and said, anybody want to do this? I had a teacher say, yeah, I want to do it, and we exchanged. We had our kids fill out the same information sheets about themselves. They did a carte d'identité and all sorts of information, and then they had to get up and ask each other questions. This year, I think I want to try it where it's not necessarily with Skype, but using an app like a Peer-In, where they're randomly paired with somebody, and then having to ask those questions, and then you reshuffle the kids again, and it's a free app that you can use. Because there's a little bit of that lag time in the Skype.
Right.
But they had a blast with it. They begged to do it again. They're like, can we Skype with another class somewhere else and do something else? And I haven't been able to make it work, but it worked perfectly with that review information about, you know, family, likes, dislikes. Do you like country music? No. Okay, so we can cross that. It's not this person. You know, do you like French fries? Yes.
Right.
Oh, maybe it's these 3 people, and then they have to ask questions that are based on those 3 people's information, and it went over amazingly well. Like I can't even. I'm psyched to do it.
So awesome.
What did you say?
I'm so sorry, but I have to take off. I have to put my kids to bed. But it was awesome chatting with you guys.
Thank you so much for showing up, even after trouble. So.
Oh, I look forward to exploring all those links, guys. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
I should probably go too. My kids are probably. Oh my gosh, it's 20 of 10.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right, you're East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast.
I'm Central Time, so I'm just waiting for my kid to get dropped off from Vacation Bible School. I was like, sure, you can bring him home, it's fine. But Stephanie, if you have a chance later, would you be able to add in the comment section what your carte d'identité looks like? So that
What looks like?
your carte d'identité that you were doing.
Yes, yeah, I'll put all that information in. Where after this is over, where do I just go back to this and put it in?
I believe that up in the middle here, there is a YouTube link that I will copy it and put it back
Okay.
lower.
Oh, I see it. No, yes, right there.
There
It's
you go. Yeah. And then it will, all these comments should still be there as well.
okay, and so I can go add in my links to my documents.
That's right. And then we'll still have
Okay.
all of the other links for both Sharwin and I to copy down.
Yes.
Sharwin, you've been trying to write this down. I looked at the first one and went, I don't know how I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I was trying to frantically. I was going, is there a way to look at this later? Because I cannot write that quickly.
I totally understand.
Right. I will definitely do that. I won't get to it till tomorrow, unfortunately, because
Okay.
it's late
That's okay.
already.
Well, I wish both of you a great start to the new year, and you know, we can always do this again now that we finally figured it out.
Yes,
So,
yes.
okay. All right. Bye-bye, Stephanie.
Bye.
Bye.
Woo! We did it!
Yes, we got through it. We